What's up, beautiful people? My name is Barbara, for those of you that don't know. And today I'm going to make a video, and it's going to be a little bit different than the ones that I have been making previously. Recently, I've been really called to share my testimony and share a little bit about myself so you guys can come to a better understanding of not only who I am, but some of the things that I have been through. And I don't know, maybe some of you might be able to relate. So, I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I come from a broken home in a broken family. I grew up with an alcoholic father and a narcissistic mother, and it was very traumatizing to say the least. In school, I was quite the outsider. I didn't have a whole lot of friends, but I wasn't like the most unpopular kid. I was definitely an outsider, though I always felt that something about me was really different, and I could never really fit in no matter how hard I tried. So in school, I did really well. I always got really good grades. Um, but yeah, there was just something really different about me, and I've always felt that ever since I was a little kid, but I could never quite figure out what that was. So I did my best to always mold myself into the situations and into the groups of the people that were around me, just to do my best to try to fit in. But naturally, I've always kind of just stuck out like a sore thumb. Went through a lot of emotional abuse. I suffered with very low self-esteem. I had very poor boundaries. They were actually non-existent. So basically, I had no internal boundaries. I had no external boundaries. I was just kind of living in a place where I would enmesh with everything and everyone around me. I couldn't figure out where that boundary was between myself and with other people. And that's a terrible place to live, to try to live through that experience, because you're just enmeshed with everyone and everything around you. And you don't know who you are. There's nothing that separates you between you and someone else. So you don't know where you end and where someone else begins. I also always grew up not having any guidance, no support. I essentially had to raise myself. So I always ended up seeking external validation through the people around me. And as I got older, into my teen years, that came out as seeking validation through the eyes of men, as I never had anybody to really tell me that I was enough. And I know a lot of you can relate to that as well. So when I got into my teen years, when I was 15 years old, I ended up dropping out of high school because I didn't have any support. Like I said, I was very alone, and there was a lot of trauma and drama that was happening in my household between me and my mother. So what had happened was I ended up dropping out of high school, and then my mom ended up kicking me out when I was 15 years old. So I was essentially homeless. And what had happened then was I met this guy, and he was quite a bit older than me, but I had nowhere else to go. So I ended up developing a relationship with him, and he kind of took me in because, well, I was homeless. So at that point in my life, nothing else mattered to me, and I was also seeking external validation. So if he was being the first guy that gave me attention, I of course went with that, right? However, he was incredibly abusive. A lot of physical abuse, a lot of emotional abuse, just a lot of abuse in general. But at that point in my life, I didn't really understand. I couldn't understand why I was going through these things, and other people that were around me, like my friends, they were in school and they were doing their own thing, and I was just so emotionally broken that I didn't care for any of that. So I was putting up with the abuse through this man. I just turned 18 that I had to leave my hometown of Winnipeg, and I ended up moving to Edmonton, Alberta. And that had happened because the guy that I was with at that time became so violent and abusive with me that my life was in danger. So I had to flee. I also was pregnant with my son at this time. I had just had him. So when I was 18, I had my son. And he was only 3 months old when I had a fully furnished apartment in Winnipeg. And yeah, my life was in danger and so was my son's. So I just packed a bag of clothes. I took my baby and we left. I had to leave because I was scared for my life. So when I moved to Edmonton, the drama basically continued. I was very traumatized and I was just going about partying a lot, seeking external validation through the eyes of men. I was completely lost. I was completely broken. And that continued for many years. I found myself developing a very strong drug addiction. I was addicted to heroin and crystal meth and prescription drugs and any kind of drug or alcohol, you name it, I was there for it. I would go to extreme lengths to numb the pain that was inside of me. And no matter how much I searched, no matter how much I used, I could never fill that hole in my heart. So everyone out there today who is struggling with addiction, I understand your pain and I know what that's like. I also found myself prostituting myself. So my working girls who engage in sex work, I understand your pain because I've been there myself for many years. I was essentially out of control and I was so rebellious and prideful and full of lust and vanity. I didn't listen to anybody. I was always so prideful that I thought I knew everything, and anyone who would ever try to correct me, I just wouldn't listen to them. I wouldn't have anything to do with it because I was so sure of myself and I thought I knew exactly what I was doing, even though I was in complete chaos. So when I hit rock bottom, essentially, is after I found myself in my third narcissistic relationship. I've always had a tendency to attract very highly narcissistic men, very abusive men. That has been happening to me ever since I was a teenager. And after I successfully attracted my third narcissistic relationship, I just hit rock bottom because I knew right then and there that it wasn't by chance that this was happening to me, that it was in fact me that was the common denominator in all of these relationships. So I knew that there was something specifically about me that was attracting this, and I just couldn't live like that anymore, you know? I've gone through so much. I know a lot of the times when people look at me, you wouldn't be able to tell, but that's only because of God's mercy and God's grace, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. So after this narcissistic relationship, I broke down and I cried out to God. And I fully surrendered myself to him because I knew that there was something seriously wrong with the way I was living my life and that I couldn't continue on this road because it would have killed me. And I wanted to bring back that point of my drug addiction because when I was consumed with that for 10 years, over 10 years, there's been many times where I've actually overdosed. But by the grace of God, there was always somebody around with Narcan to save my life each time. And it's not like this happened once or twice. This happened like 7, 8, 9 times. So I don't want to say that's luck. I know that's God's hand, and he has saved me more times than I could ever even begin to repay him or thank him. But I know his power, and I didn't see it at that time because I was so blinded. But now, after giving my life to him, when I look back, I look at all those times that I was in so much danger and my life was at risk, and he's always saved me no matter what. I couldn't see it at that time, but I can see it now looking back because hindsight is always 20/20. So after I surrendered to God, I essentially gave him full control over my life. And shortly after that, I felt such a big shift in my life, and that's when Jesus came to me. And I was able to, he revealed himself to me. And ever since that moment, my life has changed dramatically. And I've been blessed in so many ways. He saved me from just my life of sin. And I'm just so thankful to be here today. And now I can share my experience with you guys. And I hope that even just one person who listens to this video is able to come to an understanding that God is always with you and he's seeking you. And if you can just turn yourself over to him, I promise you, he can make miracles happen in your life. He can change your life in so many ways, and he can open doors for you that no man can shut. That is my promise to you. So after I was saved, I received sacrifice myself to him. And the person that lives today, I can't even, when I look back at myself, I don't even recognize myself anymore because I've changed so much, and it's because the old me is gone. It's been crucified, and now God lives in me. And the person that you see today, you guys, is just the Christ living within me. And I really want to share my love for Jesus because I know his power, and he can make miracles happen in your life. So basically, all the bad habits that I had, they started falling away. I started all my masks and fake personas, and everything that wasn't me started dissolving. And it's like this purified Christ-like image that has always been within me started coming out and revealing itself. And it's a miraculous process. Like, anyone who's gone through it knows exactly what I'm talking about. And ever since then, I started dedicating myself to God, and I do that through prayer, through fasting, and lessening my will and aligning myself with his will. So I just want to thank God publicly, and God gets all the glory because he has saved me in ways that only those that are born again through Christ will understand. So I just wanted to share that testimony with you guys. I hope that something that I said has inspired you to change your ways, to repent for your sins, and to give your life to Christ, because only he can save you. God bless everyone. Have a great day.